Small group today.
I'll intro myself as being a lurker from Web3 Filecoin side of things, and am very interested in what you guys are working on. I've been reading about some of the. Oh,
Can you hear us?
can you hear me?
I can hear yourself, but you were on mute
Okay.
for a while.
Oh, I'm sorry. So anyway, I'll introduce myself as a Web3 guy from the Filecoin Storage Network, and I've been reading about what you guys have been up to, and just want, like I said, wanted to passively lurk and listen and learn. So that's why I'm here.
I did a project with Filecoin a while ago. I have to look to see who that was.
Well, welcome into the GRC. We usually start
Absolutely.
about 5 minutes off of the top of the hour, so we should be there. And I will put the meeting notes in the chat.
Wouldn't happen to have been a guy named Shrek, would it?
No, it was Parth. Now I'm looking up his last name.
Okay.
Just Parth at 180 Protocol.
Too many obscure handles in that space.
Now I'm trying to look up his last name. Parth Shukla.
He must be with the foundation proper then. I haven't worked with him yet.
Hitesh Patel.
No, Patel, I know.
So they know a bit about confidential compute. Well, welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Sorry, I missed the introduction. Do you guys mind repeating it?
Sorry, John, gonna make you do it again.
Okay. I've been a solutions architect with Web3 storage technologies for a number of years now, focusing mostly on Filecoin related things, and been hearing a lot about what you guys have going on. And as I told Steve, I am looking to just lurk, listen, and learn, and become more acclimated to what's going on. I participated in a TLS related discussion the other day that I found fascinating, being able to exchange tokens of identity or proof of identity. I forget exactly what all the magical words and phrases were, but I found that intriguing, and hope to learn some more today.
Mutually attested TLS.
That's
Yep.
okay, cool. I was going to ask if that's what you guys were talking about. Yeah, that's really cool.
At the test, I had never heard of it. I think ATTS test framework and whatnot. I had no idea such a thing was in progress.
Is MATLS IETF protocol yet, Steve, or they're still in the forming stage?
I don't know. That was too many SIG meetings to attend. I've been focusing on the regulations mainly to try to help influence things like NIST and CSA, and I'm super interested in the TLS, but just haven't had the time for it.
Got it. Yep, I'm in the same boat. Cool. I know I keep hearing it more and more often, so it seems like it's building towards actually being an RFC. don't have my finger on the pulse of it. Cool. Did our fearless leader send an email that said he was going to miss this, or
I didn't see one,
didn't either?
but my computer wanted to reboot this morning, and then it told me Docker was malware, so I got trapped down the rabbit hole trying to figure that out.
Oh, Lordy. Well, it can be. Let's see here. Let me pull up the meeting notes, and I think there's a document that we kind of need to review. So maybe what we can do is turn this into a working meeting and just review that document. Give me a second. I'll pull up the meeting notes from last week. Oh, I see Sal's already in there. Hey, Sal. So it looks like GRC SIG 2025 goals, the whimsy draft, and then implications of break and inspect. Do you folks want to, well, here, I guess I should be sharing my screen, eh? Get all the other cruff off of my screen. There we go.
Yeah, break and inspect will be a longer conversation. That's not something we can review.
Well, we did put together well, let me press on that just a teeny bit, Steve, make sure I understood you. You guys seeing my screen?
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a share button.
Now we got it, or it's
All right.
coming, I think.
Cool.
Mhm.
Can you see it?
Yeah.
Yep.
Are you seeing the meeting notes or are you seeing my calendar?
Seeing
Meeting
meeting
notes.
notes.
All right, awesome. So this is the one that I think we're sort of a conversation starter that Mark put together.
Correct.
Don't know if, well, I guess since Mark isn't here and we don't really have an agenda, we can either ad lib an agenda or I guess, cancel this instance and sync again next time. Want to try and build consensus around that choice, or is there another alternative that I'm not thinking of?
Yeah, so of these two
Is-
docs, the whimsy draft is one that uh, uh, we could figure out where we think we need to fit in. Now, Mark has been inflicting himself on their working sessions and trying to get confidential compute at least a toehold into whimsy. And I think there's a lot of places it would be appropriate to go, but we would really need to engage with that organization, and folks here would have to attend that meeting to really influence it. The governance docs of break and inspect, I do think it's an important process that we need to have a statement of what the policies are in terms of governance. But due to the way confidential compute works, it's not like you're going to be able to stop, open it up, go inspect what the configuration was with a typical break and inspect. It'll have to be a different workflow that's implemented at a higher level in the stack.
Elaborate on that a little bit. Let me just set what I know. When I think of break and expect, I think of the front doors that sit in front of all our corporate kind of gateways.
Yep.
And I'm blocking on the name for the company that provides ours. There's like two huge ones. Anyway, they provision cert that's sitting in the gateway that all of our corporate machines are configured to trust. And so they essentially do TLS termination at the gateway, inspect the traffic, make sure there's no illicit or or content that doesn't comply with corporate standards. If it all checks out okay, passes all the filters, then they re-encrypt it with their own key and send it back to our client machines. Our browsers trust the gateway certificate, and so to us, it looks like we are having a secure end-to-end communication with the eventual server. Does
Yeah,
that
that's probably Zscaler.
Zscaler? That's the one. So is that true for all break and inspect? Kind of the right way to think about it, or are there alternatives?
So when I think of break and inspect, I think of I've got a server that's running and it's behaving anomalously. And so I need a protocol so that a admin can get in and debug what's happening.
Oh, okay. So it's like remote login to the server that's running a confidential workload.
Correct. And so there's no break and inspect mechanism built into confidential compute. So if you want a break and inspect capability, that's got to exist at a higher level up the stack,
Yeah. You've
right?
got to have an agent, a Trojan of some sort running inside a confidential T and that accepts login requests and provides some sort of a command prompt.
Correct. We're working with a key management company at the moment, and they use memory dumps to debug customer issues fairly frequently. And we're having a bit of a conundrum because there are no memory dumps available. If you ask me why a key management company should be able to debug anything with memory dumps, that's a whole nother issue. But we're having that whole conversation around break and inspect.
Yeah. We're in the same boat here, obviously, where customers, um, customers ask us for assurances that we cannot access their data under any circumstances, and then CrowdStrike happens and they want us to be able to log
Right.
into their machines and disable drivers. Uh, yes. So obviously, as we tighten up T's, we're not going to be able to do that. Or customers are going to have to decide who they want to let into their T. And I guess that's the thing that we need to talk about here, right? Have some sort of a confidential way, which goes back to identity management that says, I want to allow this identity into my T for a time interval.
And this is where, as a design pattern, I think we have a lot of value we can provide as an organization, because you're not going to be able to just flip the switch and turn off SEV and migrate your workload over to another workload. So you're going to have something that lives up the stack a little bit that says, here's a doorway you can open up under the following circumstances, and it's logged, it's guaranteed, that the tracks are immutable, right? So we have to define what that pattern is. And so Mark was taking his first crack at that, is my understanding of that document.
Got it. I completely missed that. I was thinking internet gateways, but you're talking about actually log in to the T itself, the OS that's
Yep.
running inside of the guest.
Yep.
Okay. To me, that just sounds like, why isn't it as simple as having a customer enable an SSH login to the T for the identity of the cloud service provider? That would be something that the owner of the T would do. They would grant access to cloud service provider identity. If they wanted to sanitize the T contents ahead of time, that's on them. I have nothing to say about that. And then they would say, okay, at this time, this identity will have admin access to the T. Please log in and help me debug this thing.
That is, in fact, the practice that we recommend for folks. And we stay out of that. We say, you, Mr. Customer, need to have a process for, if you want to get in here, how do you get in here? Because I've got no way to get in, which means I can't suddenly open the back door for you because there is no back door. So if you want a back door, you've got to engineer it in your application level for what you do. I think what Mark is recommending is a pattern that we recommend.
How does that have anything to do with confidential computing? How is that any different than, the application logging whatever it feels like to file systems outside of the T and including secrets in there?
I don't know that it is, but with confidential computing, you're limited to one approach as opposed to multiple approaches, right? There's no way to go in from the hypervisor. There's no way to dump the memory. If you want to figure out what's happening inside the box, you need a path in.
Yeah.
Right. So John was recommending other technologies that you could deploy in that VM, like teleport.
Sure.
Right. But it all means, I think, supporting it up the stack. And I think that's where our recommendation goes when all is said and done.
Okay. Okay, so thanks for that discussion. What do we want to do with the remainder of the time we have today? We've got 40 minutes here. Do we want to spend it reviewing a document or discussing something else?
So I'm new here, Joe Denson from Intel.
Hey, Jeff.
And hey,
Well-
so this is my first time attending. We had some changeovers at Intel, so they asked me to join the GRC here.
Yep.
And it would help me to know what the goals are, because I don't know if I have access to this document.
Well, we can fix that.
Okay. So that's A. Also, is
John?
there sort of a process that you guys follow for the meetings, or is Mark sort of the leader and he decides?
So Mark's the chair of this GRC.
Mhm.
I can share this document with you here in a second. I just need to do some clicking and I have to remember. I want to get up to the actual folder that holds all of these documents and share those. Then you'd be able to see this goals document. If you just look at the meeting notes doc, you'll see the goals doc in there for 2025. Mostly what we do in this SIG is, well, up until now, we've been pretty focused on getting requirements for confidential computing in a framework that's provided by the Cloud Security Alliance, which is a business venture that offers guidance on how to put controls around workloads that are running in the cloud. I think it started probably 10 or 15 years ago, and the idea was, hey, we've got this thing called the public cloud. We want to put workloads in the public cloud and think of all the money we're going to save, right? That was the original narrative around public cloud. You won't ever have to buy or upgrade computers ever again. You can move your IT to the public cloud, and it'll be too cheap to meter. People started doing that, and then they started leaving, S3 buckets without any kind of permissions. Started losing data all over the place, and it became apparent that we needed a guideline for how to secure workloads in the cloud so you didn't miss something. And that became like a huge document that made the CSA rather popular. It's called the Cloud Controls Matrix. It's a spreadsheet. It's got like, I don't know, a couple hundred rows in it that point by point tells you the things that you need to remember to do when you move workloads into the cloud, so that they're not easily attacked by ransomware and by people looking to exfiltrate data. Some of the things in there say, hey, make sure you use good, up-to-date crypto ciphers, and make sure you use TLS on any network connections. And so we looked at that and we said, hey, one of the other things that you really should be doing is using confidential computing, because otherwise anybody who has access to the machines that are hosting your VMs in the cloud can just look at the memory contents of your workloads. And as Steve was saying, take all your keys, right? They just snapshot the memory, take a look at the workloads that are running in there, and take your keys. And then they have access to all your data. Confidential computing blocks that attack vector. And so we're working with the CSA to sort of mandate that. We also want to work with other standards bodies, governmental standards bodies like ANISA and like the one in Singapore, whose name escapes me, NIST, NSA, these folks down here. I don't know if you can see my screen highlighting.
Yeah.
And we're trying to establish contacts with those groups so that we can help them understand the need for confidential computing and work to introduce standards like in the SP 800 series of documents, for example, that require the use of confidential computing. And I'll stop there and see if that made sense.
Yeah.
Might be useful, Alex, since Joe and John are both new, is to open up the goals for 2025, and we can review that.
Oh, great. Let's see if I can do this. I think I can. Oh, come on. And you guys, just don't worry, it's all going to be asterisks. You won't see anything here.
But Joe and John, we are leadership list today, so Alec and I are just kind of catching up.
Yeah, we're normally the meetings are pretty bent on reviewing documents that we're all collectively drafting. Okay, so complete governance patterns work, finalize existing drafts to get TAC approvals. We could do that. And then contribute PSACCM 4.1. That I think,
And the make break document is an example of a governance design pattern.
you said make break. Oh, you mean break and inspect.
Yes, sorry.
Figure out identity governance around spin up a service in the cloud, a service that, for example, I don't know, AI is all the rage these days, a service that summarizes meeting notes. That service, if you send it prompt text that includes highly confidential information for your entity, well, you want to make sure that the cloud service provider that is running that service doesn't have access to your highly confidential information. So if there are two services out there that both offer the same endpoint and both provide the same summary, one of them is confidential, and whereas the other one uploads your prompt text to some nefarious actor, how do you tell them apart? And that's what our identity of confidential workloads document is. How do you talk to an API and say, who are you? And make sure that they're not spoofing the response. Confidential computing allows for doing that, and we're trying to write standards around it. And then contribute to regulatory frameworks like we already discussed. Does that help, Joe?
It definitely helps me, and I find a tremendous amount of convergence, if you will, with the issues that we're tackling in the Web3, the distributed spaces of compute and storage in Web3. Specifically in the areas of storage, the data as an asset requires a level of not so much authentication, but the ability to prove ownership of digital assets. And as you spoke, the whole idea of a confidential prompt and being able to pass down the chain, trusted delegation of permissions to access that prompt data and or the results that come from it overlaps in the things that we're looking at here on Web3 technologies. Authentication mechanisms, passwords, private public keys, that only controls the moat into the castle. And if you can defeat the keys, there is no way, and we've seen several S3 and EC2 related breaches, or even denial of service attacks, where in Amazon charged its customers for every failed attempt to access a protected asset, and denial of service attacks has been forged by being able to hit those assets and ring up $1 million worth of charges in a month with a botnet. So again, the idea of, from my perspective, data as an asset you can't claim ownership of that asset unless you can prove to be the person of the person of authority in defining any delegation of access to that asset. It overlaps a bit. I just volunteering a little bit of noise, I guess, but
No, that was really interesting. I think you're going to want to, I'm thinking of Manu here, Steve. It feels like this idea of proof of asset ownership requires strong proof of identity. And that is straight up the work that Hushmesh and Manu were providing. Would you agree, or do you think I'm misconnecting dots here?
No, I think that's appropriate.
Cool. Well, Manu a lot of times joins this SIG. If not, or Joe and John, are you aware of the technical advisory committee that meets every other Thursday? I don't know how you heard about this meeting.
I heard about it through other folks within the Filecoin ecosystem that chanced upon it, and so it resonated with me. I'm a huge fan of the author Michael Clark, the futurist and author Michael Clark, and met him personally a couple of times at a couple of D-Store events. And this whole concept that's emerging with data as an asset, if you will, the liquid gold of the 21st century. You can't monetize that without being able to prove and demonstrate some sense of ownership. And again, in my opinion, simply having the authentication keys is not proof of ownership.
Trying to do that too. Let me do this. Yeah, I think that's weird. I don't know why it's asking me to do that now. Let me point you to, well, let me do this. Or do you, Joe and John, see yourselves looking at these documents? And if that's true, I will take the time to go ahead and make you, grant you access to the GRC meeting notes and the folder that contains the files. Having already, I mean, we've kind of given a little overview of what this group does. Is it something that you'd be interested in doing? If so, I'll go ahead and grant permissions. And
Yeah,
once
my motive is this. There comes a critical point where a critical mass of common perceptions converge on the need for common solutions. And within my circles, we're discussing this stuff, and we're hitting some hard stops and hard bumps. It sounds like you guys are trying to navigate a labyrinth of all kinds of different competing interests and whatnot. The make and break scenario is something that we've been looking at too. So I'm looking at coalescing all these different thought patterns, if you will, and trying to come up with something that's rational and coherent that can work in a lot of domains.
that sounds like there's a lot of overlap with what we're doing. Let me do this. When it comes to identity, Hushmesh. This is public information, so I don't mind sharing it here. You might want to reach out to Manu. I think you have a lot of common interests. Would definitely be worth an email, and just mention Steve and myself, in the GRC meeting, and it'll help Manu understand the context of where your inquiry is coming from.
Awesome. Thank you.
Sure.
From my perspective, I noticed you scrolled back a couple, looked like last year around this time, and Olu was listed as involved in the GRC, so I'm kind of backfilling her position here
Okay.
and participating. So it's a part of my actual job now to do this. So I'll be here.
That's awesome. That's awesome. It's good to have folks whose actual job it is to help out here. In part, I know I'm sure you've got a lot of other parts to your actual job.
Yes.
Let me do. I know Olu was working on a mapping exercise.
Yes, the confidential computing to GDPR.
Correct.
Yeah.
That something that you're taking up, or is that something that is kind of gotten back burnered?
I'm not taking up the specific mapping, but I am taking up the document that Paul has kind of gifted to the group. It looks like Mark was in here doing some edits back in December. I will share the link in the chat if I can. It says I don't have access to Google Docs. That's weird because I'm looking at the Google Doc. So
Yeah, I don't know why it made me log in again just then. It's acting a little bit strange. Wait, you're saying the Google Doc that Paul gifted. Can you paste the link? And let me just, while we're here, and you guys,
yeah,
I
I
think,
got it from Dan Middleton, who's also an Intel employee.
yeah,
And
we're familiar with Dan.
he said he moved it to a place that where more people could access it. I'm not sure where it was before, but this is the link that he gave me.
Okay. Let me just do something really quick. I'm trying to remember, how the heck do you get to the folder? It's always super hard to do. The GRC folder, and I know there's a way to say, hey, Google, show me the folder that holds the document that I'm looking at, and I can't remember exactly how to do it. Seems like it was,
It's like, isn't it like file and then go to file location or something like that?
that's the way it works in Word. Maybe open.
Details. And then click on the folder and does it open?
Dang it. There we go. More actions. Open selection and immersive reader. I remember a specific link, like right up here, that if you click on it, it puts you right in the folder view. Well, I bet you if I just do this. Sorry about this, folks.
No worries.
Yeah, but if you find it, let's link it on the very top of the.
You know what? Thank you for saying that, Sal. I actually bookmarked it. So if I come here to Regulators Consortiums, CCC GRC, folder for GRC. Here we go. No idea. And now if I say share, maybe.
It says that Google says that you should click on file and then see in drive. There should be a link that says see in drive. Why it says see in drive, I don't know. But yeah, see in drive is
All right.
the instruction that they give us.
We'll try that here in a minute. And then see if I can see. Do you mind sharing your email address with me, Joe?
It's my name, JOHNITA.
Okay.
Last name, Denson, DENSON,
Uh-huh.
at intel.com.
It's not finding, obviously it's not finding, so now I just got to figure out how to share it with you. Shared with me, GRC SIG. How do I grant people permission? Boy, oh boy.
The folder, well,
There,
this is
may
your shared with me folder. You'd have to go to the drive itself to share with others.
there are all kinds of weird permissions that are going on if this was created inside of a Linux Foundation folder. So we may not be able to do like back orientation on it. I myself am not able to, even with my Linux contract, it's email, it's not letting me go back. But we can send you the direct documents and we'll have them outlined at the top of the notes. That is something that we should get better at with this. But Joe, I did want to say something real quick. We did see Olu on a call today. It's been a bit of a blur, but I think that I saw them on the attestation call this week. I believe is that or CSA. But it is nice to see that there's more coverage across these because there's just a lot of work. There's that CSA and this. So yeah, glad to see you, but getting a little bit of coverage or looking at the recordings from attestation or CSA, also good context for this space because they're very related.
I should have put you both on there at the same time, rats. Let me capture in the meeting notes here. Come on. Doesn't seem to want to do it. There it went. Okay, while we're here. Did you, Sal, I saw you were in the meeting notes. Did you enter the email here as an attendee? So we've got a record here?
I have not yet. I will add it in.
Yeah, that'd be great. And John, do you mind sharing your email with us?
Sure, I'll put,
Right here.
let me put it in there. It's actually standing up for a second. Let's do that one because all my accounts are keyed to that.
Okay.
Sure.
It's spelled phonetically the same way phonetically is spelled with a PH.
Yeah. Not even going to try it.
Psycherbike. If you cross out the U's, it kind of makes sense.
Psycher bike. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So my
Very
magic
nice.
decoder ring, I can always know if I've met somebody because they'll know how to say my last name. And nobody's not met me that ever does.
You've got extra letters in there, which are interesting. I bet you enjoy spelling your name for everybody you ever talk to 30 times.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting that you know my father came over from Holland or whatnot, so here nobody can pronounce it. And when I lived in the Netherlands for a couple of years, and when I announced myself there, everybody giggles because it was a bit of a joke when Napoleon rolled over the Netherlands, and nobody thought the last name trick was going to stick.
Do this, and then I think I can share. Yeah, I can do. There. Do that. And I need to add you to this. There we go.
Got it.
Okay, cool. So we've got that. Now I'm just wondering, and what we're saying here, if we go to this, if I don't select anything, if I just click on this, it's not going to do it. Yeah, maybe I can do that. Maybe this will work. It's down while I'm in here. See if this works. Oh, shoot. I don't know your email. Can you give it to me really quick? Sal?
Yeah, 1 sec. Can I?
Let me just get it out of here too. Hang on.
Yeah, I should be on the list, but I'm here.
Here you go. S. Kimmich. Let me try this.
Yeah, image, contractor, and it's foundation. No, it's so long. Just copy and paste it. I put it in the chat if you need.
Weird. This thing seems to have. There it goes. See if this works.
Couldn't give you Sal at ccc.org, huh?
So maybe we've just shared the folder. I'm not sure.
Yeah, checking permissions now.
Okay, and let's see about this doc here. And you said file. Sorry, I thought you had something cool there, Joe. So
It's just that's what Google told me. I said, how do you see it? And they said, see and drive. They lied. That's all I'm saying. That's
yeah.
Google told me that, and it's not true.
Oh, look, see this thing here?
Yeah.
This add shortcut to drive. I'll click on that. Add shortcut.
This is more like a soft link. If you go to the file details, you'll see that the location is masked by a policy that above it.
Okay. Well, I think we just added it to the GRC SIG.
Mhm.
Okay.
Confidential
Yeah.
computing and the GDPR. Let's see if it's here. And if I refresh this. Confidential computing and the GDPR. Fantastic.
All right.
Wow.
Alrighty.
How to use Google. I never thought that would ever happen, but here I am. So much for old dogs and new tricks. Okay.
Well,
Okay, so now we've got 15 minutes left, and I'll return to the forum as acting chair here. What do we want to do in the last 15 minutes? Do we want to read through this cool doc? Or do we want to read through another doc, or do we want to adjourn?
I will say that the confidential computing in the GDPR is, I think, like 15 pages. It's not something we can read in like 15 minutes, I don't think. But we can read it and come back, or read it and add your notes and feedback. I know that Dan introduced this to the board, and I think the TAC, and they said that they would get back to him in like a week with some feedback. And then once we get more feedback, we'll start making adjustments to it so that we can, have it published.
Got it. Well, it looks like there's a ton of comments, and here there's Dan.
Mhm.
So it feels like Joe or somebody there at Intel is kind of on the hook for
Mhm.
incorporating these comments or
That,
responding
that
to.
would be me. That would be me.
Cool.
I'm on the hook, but I will be working with Paul as the subject matter expert, so to speak. What we're hoping to be able to do, well, first, I was hoping to understand if the process here kind of included how we get things published, or like what the process is to go through for publishing as the Confidential Computing Consortium, as opposed, and in addition to getting everyone's feedback. The next step is really to have, your respective organizations, legal, look through it and make sure that we're in compliance with that.
Well, this is a public forum, so I don't
Yeah.
think any of the work that's done as part of this special interest group has anything to do with our corporations. Obviously, if you publish something that is, that is not in compliance with your corporation could take actions. But these docs are not, at least speaking for myself and Microsoft, these docs don't get reviewed by Microsoft. And even the things that I publish for the CCC blog posts and whatnot do not get reviewed by Microsoft. I'm asked by Microsoft, in peril to my job, to not make statements that are contrary to Microsoft standards, but that's it, right? Like if I commit slander or do something that is harassment, that's it. So point is, you have a free reign in this particular SIG to write whatever you want. Doesn't have to pass any kind of legal. Well, probably the Linux Foundation would object to something that you publish that is not in compliance with their standards, but they don't review anything. So having said all of that, and that was way too long an explanation.
No, that was perfect. It was
Write
perfect.
whatever you want. Then the format is get it reviewed by the members of this SIG. Then the chair, Mark, we'll recommend it to the TAC, where Dan Middleton is the chair. And if the TAC agrees that that it's that it's a good document, then they post it to the CCC website as a white paper. That's all there is to it.
So yeah, I think we're on the move there with those steps. But first, I think getting your guys' eyeballs on it as subject matter experts, and just giving us feedback, and then I'll work with Paul to incorporate the feedback and rev this to the next version.
So sounds like there's already some directives in here from Paul to rewrite, and I think what he means is incorporate Mark's comments into the actual draft text. So just mechanically, the way we typically do that is, you can just click this check here. If you're in merge mode, you can just click the check here, and the change will automatically reflect in the text, and the comment will go away. That's not what he's done here. This is just a comment. So you're going to have to sort of rewrite it. Maybe not.
Yeah.
No, you can just click the check marks here, and it'll replace the existing text with what Mark suggested here.
Like the review function of Word, right? That's what you're saying?
Exactly the same. And you can even go up here and click accept all, but probably don't want to do that as the author.
No, definitely not.
So would it be on the deadline for this GDPR review, would it be timely for us to give it a final review before the next meeting and for you to go and do your like check changes and then come with any questions? Because then we can consolidate and make sure that we get anything where there's a diff left to discuss.
Yeah, so the next meeting is February 12th. Do you guys think you could get in there and make some put in some feedback before, next week?
Yep, and we can put it on for the agenda.
Cool.
All right, cool. So now if I go back to the meeting notes, action items. Geeks. Sorry about that sound. That look right?
I think that's good.
Good.
Okay. Got 8 minutes left. Feels like we've got some action items. Maybe we adjourn and start taking a look at the doc, or does somebody else have additional action items they want to bring up?
Nope, I think that's good.
Just no E on Joe. That's the only action item I got.
Yeah. And I do want to say, usually these meetings are like so structured, so on the go. We've got so much to cover. This was kind of a nicer day for you to get started and jump in because we had time to discuss. So
Yeah,
welcome in. Good start.
I appreciate it. I was surprised from what I was told about the meeting. So I was like excited. This is great.
All right, cool.
Thanks, guys.
Well, nice to meet you guys. Thanks for your interest, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks.
All right. Have a good one.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.